Ooh, we are live. We are live. Okay, I feel like this happens every single time I go live. I'm like the worst techie. But if you can hear me and you're watching this, please comment so that I know the stream is streaming and I have not ruined this broadcast. So if you're watching this and you're watching it live, please comment and let me know that you can see this and that um, we are connected. Okay, I think I see an eyeball. I see some eyeballs. So that means somebody's here. Give me a comment and let me know you're here. Let me know if audio's good before we dive in. Yes. Okay, I see some folks that popped up on the screen. Okay, great. So, as you guys know, every month we bring in a guest expert into our community to teach us something that Tremaine has no idea about. And tonight I'm super excited because we're going to be talking about government contracting. So, if you are watching this live and you're a business owner and you have thought about government contracting, I'm going to encourage you to ask all of the questions because this is the time. I got a super, super exciting guest with us. Crystal is going to wow the socks off of you with the knowledge that she's going to share and hopefully bring some clarity to how you can get started in this government contracting process and like collect some of these coins. Because I know she's going to get some stats, but there's so much money to be made in this space. So, of course, before we get started, Crystal, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to read your bio so people can know like the receipts, right? Because we don't play about who we bring into this community. I always like to make sure that the folks know that when we bring somebody in, it's because they are the real deal. So, Crystal is a serial womanpreneur, author, speaker, business coach, and brand strategist. She owns Divas and Dolls Fitness, a pole and sensual dance studio, Cirque Sensual, a sensual aerial dance brand, and Simply She, a coaching and consulting firm, and her personal brand. An engineer by trade, Crystal knew that entrepreneurship was the ultimate goal early in her professional career. She has always been passionate about empowering women, creating a safe space for them to unapologetically, I'm gonna have to apologize for butchering that word, be themselves and providing the support they need to transform their passion into profits. Crystal encourages others to tap into their zone of genius through her signature coaching program, podcast, and TV show, The Brand Build Her Blueprint. She teaches coaches and consultants how to monetize their expertise and create multiple streams of income so they can build a profitable and sustainable business. So, Crystal!
Thank you so much for having me, Tremaine. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. I'm super excited. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, to teach. So, yes, government contracting. So, we're just going to go ahead and dive in if that's okay.
For sure.
Let's see. Come on, slides. Let's do this. There we go. All right. So that's me, and this is Government Contracting 101. PS, the she and Simply She stands for Slay Hard Every Day. That's one of my signature hashtags in case you were wondering. But we're going to go ahead and keep this thing moving. So for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I teach coaches, consultants, online service providers how to monetize their expertise. I have over 13 years of experience in the GovCon sector, and we'll get into that in just a second. So I have been the project manager, contract lead, executive lead in contracting opportunities in the hundreds of millions of dollars with the Department of Defense, the U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Defense Logistics Agency in Battle Creek, Michigan, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services. And also done contracting with the state and some subcontracting opportunities as well. So guys, please feel free to ask your questions, ask away. I have been on both sides of the table, contractor as well as COR, contracting officer, which we'll get into. So please ask questions and I'll make sure I answer them. I will skip this part, but if you feel free to let me know who's watching, where you are, where you're from. I'm from Maryland, personally, DMV, whoop, whoop, Prince George's County. So I like to make this interactive, but let me know. Let me know in the chat who you are, where you're from, and also what type of businesses you have, because I know a lot of people think that because of the type of business that they have, they're not going to go after a government contract, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. So let me know, guys, if you want to just type into the chat some things that you've heard about government contracting, or maybe some things that have stopped you from getting started in the past. So maybe you have thought about it. You're like, ooh, I want to go after this, but something stopped you. So I'm going to keep rolling, but let me know what those things are. I know some of the things that I've heard is that the paperwork, they just don't know where to start, but please let me know what are some of the things. I want to make sure I address those certifications. Okay. So Tremaine's dropping certifications in there. So you don't actually have need a certification to get started in the government contracting arena. I know that is being said. I'll talk about certifications as well, but you don't need them to start in the GovCon arena. Oh, we got somebody from Brooklyn. Whoop, whoop. I went to Cornell University. So that's upstate New York, but I'm familiar with the New York area. Okay, so I like to start all my workshops off with a quote. And this one's by Jim Rohn. Success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. And in the GovCon sector, that is something that definitely always rings true in terms of consistently applying the basic fundamentals. It's like, go with what you know. That's the best piece of advice that I could give. I see someone has put in the chat, honestly don't know how my skill set aligns with specific needs the government may have. Okay, well, maybe we can address that. I don't know what that means, but maybe you could drop into the chat what type of business that you have, and we can talk more about that. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today: how to prepare your business, so the documents and accounts that you're going to need, how to register on sam.gov, which is where you're going to be searching for contracting opportunities, positioning your business for success, subcontracting, certifications, and something I like to talk about are called the $1 Million Contract Response Formula. So hold on to your seats, guys. Take plenty of notes. Because it's going to be a lot of info. So let's talk about and dive into the federal government procurement process. First things first, registration is free. That's right, FREE, it is free. And you're going to do so on visit sba.gov also to kind of give you a rundown to prepare for what you're going to need to make it successfully through the process. You also will eventually need to get familiar with what's called the FAR, or the Federal Acquisition Regulations, FAR. You may have seen that if you've ever looked at some government documents. You don't got to memorize it because this is literally thousands upon thousands of pages. However, I always tell my clients, review the FAR in the terms that apply to you. That's the best advice that I can give. Everything else, call a lawyer. Also, understanding particular agency procurement rules. So there's a lot of government agencies. I named the few that I've contracted with in the past, right? Army, Navy, Marine Corps, DLA, DHS, Department of Homeland, right? So while they will mostly list their opportunities for bid on sam.gov, each agency kind of approaches their procurement process, which is the process to put out a bid for work, to ask for contractors, just a little bit differently. And so once you start looking for opportunities, you kind of get familiar with the agencies that need your type of skill set. And you then would kind of get to know what their particular rules are, especially as it relates to the financial threshold of what has to be posted on sam.gov and what they can do, how they can sole source a contract, which I'll go into that in just a little bit, meaning they just can give it to you. So, which is the best of all the worlds, right? SAM.gov we'll talk about extensively. And then also the GSA schedule, or the General Services Administration, another governmental agency. However, they do have their own procurement and bidding process that you can participate in. And so I'll go a little bit into that, but this will mostly be related to the process according to SAM.gov. Tremaine says, I remember the fall. I used to be a contract specialist trainee in college. Okay, yes. And Tremaine says she's been sole source before. I didn't know what it was called when it happened. Oh, I mean, hey, it happened though. That's the most important part, is that it happened. So let's go into, what does your business need before you register with SAM.gov? And again, guys, the process isn't difficult, but it just helps to set yourself up for success. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure your business is set up as a legal business entity in your state, and obtain an EIN number. Okay. Now I know some of y'all out here might be riding dirty, but this is not the time to do that. If you're serious about doing business with the government, we can't be riding dirty out here. So you need to set your business up legally in your state and obtain an EIN number. If you have a virtual business or you work from home, you can use a virtual business address. I'll talk about that in a second. You also need a business bank account, okay? Keep the money and the funds coming from Uncle Sam separate from your bank account. And I know Tremaine has advice on this, but this is most definitely true if you're going to be working with the government, okay? You also need a valid government issued ID, so a driver's license, a photo ID, passport. And you're going to want your annual business revenue for at least 2 years. But doesn't mean you have to be in business for 2 years. So just need if it's zero, it's zero, okay? And that's okay. All right. So let's talk about the preparation process. So you want to have all the documents I just listed accessible when registering. Your business entity needs to be in good standing with your state. What does that mean in most cases? Your taxes need to be paid, okay? So again, out here riding dirty, we don't want that when it comes to doing business with the government. You need your incorporation date and state of incorporation. By the way, guys, please feel free to screenshot this. Be sure you have your EIN for at least 2 weeks before applying, before registering in SAM.gov, at least 2 weeks, okay? Why do we want to do that? Because when you're applying, a lot of government agencies are, I guess, presiding over this process, if you will. Nothing to worry about, but they want to make sure you're a legit business. So they're going to perform what's called a TIN check. So they're going to check and make sure that your EIN number matches your business name. If it's new, it takes the IRS at least 2 weeks to get that information in the system. So if you do that beforehand, you're just going to have to end up waiting the time and like resubmitting that part. So, and just to avoid confusion, just wait the 2 weeks. Also, make sure your business bank account is set up. Do not use your personal account. I repeat, do not use your personal account. Okay. So, and I keep saying it because when you, let's just say you're audited, right? You're audited by the government, which could happen. Sometimes especially as a new contractor, that could happen for a while on an annual basis. But you always want to conduct your own audit, but you don't want someone combing through your personal finances. And let's just say a mistake is made. You don't want them to reach into your personal finances and pull money out. Okay. So business bank account. I see a question. Do they have government contracts for real estate or nonprofits? So nonprofits can most certainly apply for contracts depending on what your service or product is, if that makes sense. And yes, they do have contracts for real estate, but I would need to know what part of real estate you are referring to. So again, product or service with the government, there's always a way to do business. But if you can give me some more specifics, I can probably dive a little bit deeper into that. But nonprofits, depending on what you provide, absolutely, you can apply for contracts. Okay, so how and why to register your business on SAM.gov. So this is a screenshot of what it looks like. The actual portal, they've updated it. It looks so much better. It doesn't look like 1975 anymore. I'm so excited. So it's great. You want to start here first. And then this is going to be what is going to allow you to do business with the government. You're going to get your UEI, or Unique Entity ID. This has been replaced with the DUNS number. So if you're familiar with the DUNS number, you no longer need that. You need a UEI. Slightly different process. And everything is kind of streamlined in one portal. You used to have to go to a couple different systems. SAM.gov now is a system of record, which is great. Also, getting your UEI, the DLA is validating your business legal name and address. You're registering your business to do business with the government. And this is also your search engine for contract opportunities. Okay. So you're going to pretty much do everything, most of the things you need, especially starting out in SAM.gov. So you want to gather your important documents. You want to find your NAICS code, NAICS. So you want to go to, you can just Google that right now just to have it up if you want. But you need that so you can kind of tell the government what type of business you have, what type of product or service you're trying to provide. Your NAICS code outlines that. It's like a classification for the government. So if you do human resources, if you do things in financial planning, your NAICS code will tell the government basically what you do. You're going to make a SAM.gov account. You're going to get your UEI. You're going to register your business in SAM.gov, and then you're going to search for opportunities. So those are the steps. Okay. Catherine Beasley. Yes, that's been something stopping me from going after more contracts. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna make sure I'm not missing any comments, guys. Keep the questions coming. So gathering important documents, again, legal business name, physical address. You cannot use a PO box. Okay. That's why I said you can use a virtual address. You cannot use a PO box. The Defense Logistics Agency does validate that your business and address match, and so they do not want PO boxes. You need to state and date of incorporation, your TIN, and a valid state issued ID. All can be done online, okay? So, NAICS.com. You can find your NAICS code, right? The North American Industry Classification System. This tool is really, really helpful because it actually gives a lot of information, all for free. So you can find your business classification. You can also see what businesses are doing business with the government under your NAICS code and how much in contracts they have. Millions of dollars, like basically who are the top players in your industry. You can find them on this website, right? You can do a little bit of market research, right? So this is a very, very important tool. You can also drill down. So sometimes there's a NAICS code within the NAICS code. So human resources is really broad. Sometimes the government has subcategories, and you'll want to list those as well, or do business under those as well. So just do a little bit of research before you actually go and apply. I like to have all this stuff available. So when I work with clients, we just kind of do all this up front. The actual process is not that long, but just having this, having everything makes it a lot easier. So I see someone says, I'm interested in possibly working with the FCC since my career is in communications. However, working directly for a major telecom company, I'm worried about a conflict of interest. What are some good ways to mitigate or address these concerns beforehand if possible? So I would look at my agreement with the company that I'm with in terms of what type of business or what you can do or can't do while you're under their employment, because the government isn't going to care like what you're doing. You're beholden to the company that you work for. So I would look and see like what their stipulations are. Are you under an NDA? Are you under a non-compete? I would look at those things before I start to like delve into the exact same sector, because you might be under a non-compete or an NDA or something that says that you can't bid on things in that industry or open a company in that industry. So make sure you look at that. Also, if you are active duty military, you're not going to be able to bid, I'm sorry, until you go to civilian status. Okay, I believe reservists are okay, but definitely active duty military, you're not allowed to go after government contracts until you're on the other side. So keep that in mind. But I always tell my clients, look at all the agreements and paperwork that you sign. When in doubt, ask. I think, you don't want it to be vague, right? You don't want something to affect your business down the line, so definitely make sure you ask those questions. Let's see. He said I'm handcuffed. Maybe, but it depends. Maybe you can do business under another area that's not in conflict. I see nothing wrong with doing a business in a completely different sector. So communications, but communications can be broad. I mean, you could write in communications, you could be a speechwriter. There's a contract for that, right? So think outside the box, and maybe it's not in direct conflict with what you're doing at your company. So I hope that helps. Real estate, I would like to work with them on affordable housing. Okay, so I'm sure there are contracts out there that you could get maybe to build affordable housing, or they would fund like programs for affordable housing. So yes, nonprofit is to help single mothers. So that would be something to search, because it depends on the mission of the agency also, which is why I said look at the agency. When you say single mothers, that immediately makes me think of the military and single active duty service members or mil spouses. There's a lot of programs, or military spouses. I'm sorry, I start to use acronyms and shorten things. Military spouses. So that's just where my mind goes, but I'm sure that there are other programs out there that you could potentially go after, especially under Health and Human Services. That might be a good agency to look at. Health and Human Services might be good for those types of contracts. Also the military. Again, I spent a lot of my time with the military, so I know a lot about that side of the house. All right, please guys, keep your questions coming. So I kind of have a little breakdown of how to find your NAICS code. So that little orange box, you can type in keywords. So you can type in, like I said, human resources. I think that's the example that I used. And then you can use the drill down table to kind of go, or you can use the drill down table to go even further. So it kind of has the industry, top level industries already listed, and you can click on those and kind of just see what's underneath. I do both, actually. I'll use the keyword search and I'll use the drill down table just to make sure I don't miss anything. Very thorough. Want to make sure I capture all the NAICS codes that might apply to me. So yes, I did use human resources. So I use human resources in the keyword search. And this is actually what was returned from the search results. So as you can see, 541612 is the NAICS code. So when you're applying, or when you're registering on SAM.gov, that is what you're going to put under the NAICS code section, because you want to do human resources consulting services for the government. So hopefully that makes sense. There's also something on the side called SIC crosswalk. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just a different number, right? So some government agencies want the SIC code. Not very many, but some do. And so you can view that code also on this website. Stick to the NAICS, because even state, if you want state contracts, they also use this system. So I just tell people to keep it simple, focus on that. If they ask for it, you know where the information is. Any questions so far? Keep them coming. Any questions so far? Any questions at all? Please continue to drop them in. Oh, Tremaine got one. Wait, you're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I muted and unmuted. I got so excited. I'm double clicking. Okay. So first of all, this is so good. Just the fact that you mentioned we can use the search feature to find the code and like drill down and figure out who's spending the most money. That is a big deal, right? I took that note. I was like, oh no, I ain't gonna forget this one, right? But my first question though is like, when you're getting started on this process, and let's say you're a multi-passionate entrepreneur, right? And there's an opportunity for you to provide all kinds of services. How do you narrow it down to what service to provide or what to look for?
Yeah, so I tell people to kind of go with what you know you can deliver. Don't go with what you know a little bit about. And I'm a stickler for delivery, especially to the government. So if you know kind of a little bit, it might be shaky. I would say stay away from that your first go around. Go with something that you know you absolutely can do, no backwards and forwards, and then start to look at opportunities and see what's available. So it might also be that something is canceled out because there's no contracts coming up in the near future. So you may have to go with another area. But I always say err on the side of caution in terms of I know exactly how to do this backwards and forwards, and I know how to like quickly get started. I know exactly how much this is going to cost me. It's kind of like this is not the time to kind of jump into something that you absolutely know nothing about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Because I think for a lot of us, like we get excited when we think about opportunity, and it's like, what's the latest trend that you can hop on and participate in it? And you're saying like that's not what you want to do with government contracting. It's like, where's your zone of genius?
Yes, because you'll be I mean, like especially when you get into a serious negotiation and they start asking you questions, you don't want to be stumbling and fumbling. Like you want to be able to answer on the money, quick, fast. There is a strategy to asking and answering questions, right? But you want to come through as the clear expert, especially if maybe someone's had the contract for a long time and you're looking for an upset. So it's very clear. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're, and I'm gonna shut up and let somebody else ask a question. But if you guys have questions, please put them in the comments, because otherwise I will sit here and ask all the questions myself and you ain't gonna get none. But when you are working with people one-on-one, or in a coaching program to take them through this, do you have a formula or a strategy that you follow to kind of like narrow down those of us who are scatterbrained?
Yes. So I do. So of course we always start with your zone of genius, and we kind of do the same process that I'm kind of walking you through now, but of course it's more personalized. In addition, I'll do some market research too on your behalf on who's in the market, who the players are, because that makes a difference. And we'll talk about subcontracting as well, but sometimes it's easier to get your foot in the door on a subcontract rather than try to go in as the primary bidder. And kind of work your way in that way. Of course, networking and relationships are a big part of the GovCon industry. So there's that piece, but basically we go through the same lens of like, okay, what can you do? Like, absolutely. Okay, what opportunities are available? When is the next contract coming up for bid? And how can we be competitive? Kind of doing it's a lot of research on your competitors to make sure that when you do respond to what's called a request or proposal, I'll talk about that too, you stand out. Especially if they're used to seeing the same people over and over and over. Like the government, just like everybody else, sometimes they want some new blood. Yeah. And sometimes people are like, oh, this person's had the contract for all these years. Doesn't mean you can't win. So, and also you also want to get on people's radar. So there is a strategy to all of that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. I'm excited. If you have questions, please feel free to share those in the comments. We have somebody who has won contracts and been on both sides of this process. So y'all got a gem in y'all hands. Don't let her walk away with y'all getting your questions answered, because I know I'm gonna keep asking mine, but I'm gonna let you keep going. But I'll be back.
Okay. All right. So guys, I just want to walk you through the actual process of what it looks like. Because really it's not, I know that it is sometimes like having to do a lot of stuff on the computer and the paperwork can be intimidating, but I just want you to see it so that you can be familiar. So literally you go to SAM.gov, you click get started, right? That's the first thing. And then what you're wanting to do is you want to select register for all awards. This is important because you want to be able to bid on contracts. And you also want to be eligible what the government calls financial assistance, aka certifications. So to do that, you have to click register for all awards. Okay. Next, I don't think anybody here is a government entity, so you're going to select no for are you registering a government entity. And then this little ticker shows you where you are in the process. So basically confirms you're registering your business and that you want to be able to bid on contracts. It also confirms you want to be eligible for financial assistance or certifications, okay? The SBA certifications, because there are also state certifications as well. Then you want to prepare all the documents I talked about earlier, right? Because we're ready to get started. So basically all you're going to do is just complete the prompts. It's a definitely a lot easier process than it used to be. Follow the prompts. After you complete the information, you will receive your UEI in via email. And it probably is going to take you about 20 to 30 minutes just to do that part. As long as everything is as it should be, it'll probably be 24 to 72 hours before you get your UEI. And this is actually an email. This is what it looks like. It's a plain text email. So if you've never emailed the government or been in correspondence with them, they don't have the fancy smancy emails that we have as like doing business online. Everything is plain text. Okay. So that's what it's going to look like, just so you know. So don't delete it. It's not spam. Okay. And you'll receive the confirmation email. And then once you receive your UEI, you have to actually register to bid on contracts. So it's a two-step process. The first is get your UEI. The second is register to bid. All are going to be done on sam.gov. So again, before you begin the process, you want to make sure you have all the information I mentioned. And again, your TIN number you should have that for at least 2 weeks and 1 day, just to make sure you have no problems. Doing it on the 14th day might be risky. So I would just say do it on the 15th day. If you've just applied, make sure you select all awards registration. That process is going to take about 90 minutes. And then they also have a entity registration checklist. This can be found on sam.gov. It's a PDF. And just make sure that you have all the information that you need. You don't have to fill out the checklist. It's just to help you during the process. So this is what it looks like. It's a PDF. You can click on it, and it just kind of tells you everything that you need. Now, once you submit your registration, you receive a confirmation email, as well as they're going to let you know they're going to do the 10 check process. DLA, or Defense Logistics Agency, is going to verify the address and name of your business. You may receive questions from them. I received questions because this business that I'm registering, Simply She, is a virtual business, like meaning I don't have a office. So they asked me a couple of questions about my email and also my address. Now, if you have an email, so my email that I use is info@isimplyShe.com. That's my email. So it is like a generic email. So they don't necessarily like that. They're going to ask, does anybody else have access to this email? So if anybody else does, that's not the email you want to use, okay? You want to use an email that only you have access to as the head of the company, okay? And it's because they send like security codes and things like that, and they don't want your account to be hacked. And you don't want your account to be hacked. So make sure nobody else has access to that email account. I know we trust our staff and things like that, but you just don't want anything. You want emails to get lost or anything like that. So that gets rid of that problem. Once the verification is complete, you receive an email that you've been registered and it's activated. And you can also view your active registration on sam.gov. Again, a one-stop shop. It's the portal where you'll see everything. Okay. And again, I'm just screenshotting the email so that you guys know that this is what it looks like. So don't delete them. It almost looks like spam. So just make sure you actually read the subject line. And that's why I screenshotted it. And it is a do not reply email also. So you can't talk to anybody if except for DLA. They'll tell you those are the only people you can talk to. You can't talk to sam.gov with these. Okay. So this is a screenshot of what it looks like inside of sam.gov once your entity has been registered. And as you can see, the little one, the green one, that's an active registration. So that's what it's going to look like. Any questions about that? I wanted to pause there because that was a lot of screenshots of emails and things.
I got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and I don't know who this would also apply to, but I know in years past, I was registered for SAM before, right? Mm-hmm. I have not gone through this new process. Is this something that I need to do again? How does that work?
Yes. So you have to do it again. And now it's annual. So you're going to have to recertify every year. Before it was you were good for 5-10 years, something like that. No, now it's not. So you need to go and you have to renew every year. Okay. It shouldn't be as long as the first time that that you went through the process. So everybody is going to be asked to do this process at some point. So if you were registered a long time ago, you got a DUNS number, you don't got a UEI, they're switching to this new system, so you're going to have to do it.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes,
that's good to know. Okay, another question.
Okay.
The two-part process. So the first step was creating the SAM account. What was the second part?
So the first part, create the SAM account and get the UEI. So there's a number you're getting. So you create your account and you get your unique entity ID. Then once you get that, then it's actually registering to do business with the government. So it's like get the number and then do business. Because sometimes people don't actually go forward with the second step, or they just want to get a certification. So you can, there were three options there. There was the financial assistance only, all awards, and then I believe there was like a subcontracting option. So you cannot, not do some of those or not do one or the other. So that's why you have to do two steps, because you have options.
Cool. All right, I see a couple questions in here. I think I missed Catherine, but Catherine says, I serve caregivers for loved ones with Alzheimer's. There are national associations and government. Is there a space for me?
I mean, Alzheimer's, I think about veterans immediately. So I would look under the VA, most definitely. Also DHS, Department of Health and Human Services as well. Those two agencies, I think, probably have programs. It's kind of like you're looking for the agencies that have programs that coordinate with your skill set. And you can search this in SAM.gov. So, and you can also, of course, so I guess like that skill set would be nurse. Would it qualify under nursing maybe? And so you could find the NAACS code for nursing. I'm sure there's other agencies that have that, but just off the top of my head, that's what I would think.
That's really, really good. So piggyback question, right? Because I think a lot of times we assume that associations and nonprofits, like larger nonprofits, are competitors, right? And we might think that if we're a small business, that somebody else is going to do that work and we might not need to apply. Like, is that erroneous thinking? Like, how should we move forward with that?
Definitely move forward, because just because that nonprofit is in that space, they might not want that might not be the work that they want to do. So like, I'll give you an example. I was at a nonprofit. We had the government contract. So the company that I was at was not a for-profit company. It was a nonprofit. And the contract that I was working on was providing military fee assistance for service members, which is why I know the military side of the house so well. But that wasn't the mission of the mission of the organization, of course, was childcare related, but like the other side of the organization did something completely separate. So it was kind of like they didn't have to do that contracting work. You know what I mean? Somebody else with a different skill set, albeit it probably wouldn't have been that great in terms of delivery, somebody else could have done the work, if that makes sense. So don't count yourself out because there are organizations that are down with that same cause, because they may not have the know-how to execute. And that's really what government contracting is about, getting stuff done, right? Getting the work done, providing the service, or getting the product delivered. And sometimes other organizations, they don't want to do that, or they don't have the infrastructure and know how to do that.
That's good. That's good. All right, we got another question. Bryant says, do sole proprietors qualify to do government contract work?
Yes, as long as you have an EIN. So just get an EIN. Yes.
Period. That was short and sweet. No excuses, y'all. No excuses.
Yeah, for real. I haven't said this yet, but like there's contracts to be a barber. Think about that. Barber. Barbering services are contracted by the federal government. Okay. So that just gives you like a scope, like hairdressers also, right? So just it kind of gives you that scope, like nothing is off limits. The US government is the world's #1 customer. The
Oh,
US
that's good.
government is the world's #1 customer. They buy anything and everything. Paper clips, toilet paper, markers, paper, barbering services, hair. How do you think they be looking so good when they be on TV? They have barbers and hairdressers in the daggone Capitol and in the White House. Okay? Like, I'm telling you, there is room for everyone. Who do you think cuts the service members' hair? Soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors, right? Most of those people are contracted people. A lot of them are, especially on a base or like in a government building. So just keep that in mind.
That's good. That was a nugget right there. I think like I'm gonna let you keep going, but I just wanna like make sure we heard that because I think sometimes we just assume like the government doesn't need my skill set, right? Because we think of it on such a boxy,
It's a small
stoic, like yeah, it's nobody. I really had to like wrap my head around like the U.S. government is the world's #1 customer. They can buy anything from me.
We buy a lot of stuff, y'all. Trillions of dollars of things. Trillions.
That's
Trillions.
good.
Trillions. So yes.
That's good. That's good. If you're watching, drop your questions. Look, drop your questions. All right, we're gonna be.
Okay. So now that we have registered for our opportunity to do business with the government, now it's time to search for contract opportunities. So where are we going? SAM.gov. And you can search without registering. So you can go on SAM.gov now and type in things, but the search capability is better at least once you've at least like made an account. I will admit that. So just keep that in mind. Again, still free, right? You can search before you get your UEID and register to do business. That search is always available. It's open to the public. So, okay, so keep that in mind as well. So you're going to go to SAM.gov and then we're going to type in the search bar things that we're looking for. Okay, so let's see. You can search by keywords, NAICS codes. You can search by the agency, which is why you need to know your NAICS codes. Okay. I can't remember what I use as the example, but there's a lot of different ways you can drill down to find opportunities. So I always tell people search by multiple ways. And also, if you really are looking to get into the contract game, just make it a daily practice, 5-10 minutes. Just look and see what new things popped up on a daily basis. Takes 5 minutes out of your day. You do that little search, keep moving, okay? So, oh yes, I searched marketing. Okay, so some things to note. The contract information is on the right-hand side, and then you can click the blue writing. So click on the solicitation name for more information. So when the government drops a either request for a proposal or request for information, or there's tons of other terminology and names, you'll be able to see that here, but it's called a solicitation. Okay. So, Tremaine says 5 minutes could turn into 5 million. Absolutely. Yes, that's a great saying. It really could. So when you're looking at contract opportunities, this is what happens when you click on the blue writing, right? You get more info. So you have the solicitation number here, that notice ID. That's how the government keeps track of this request in their system. Also, you can see what department it's for. So you can see the agency. This is for the Department of Defense. You can also see the type of opportunity. So this is a sources sought opportunity. What that means is the government is trying to see if there's any businesses out there that can fulfill this request. Okay, so you may, at least when you first start to see these a lot. I still would respond to these because a lot of times what that means, the government is unaware of any contractors who potentially provide this service. You could be the first and the only if you submit the information, right? Also, the date the offer is due, and then the date I also like to look at date last updated. And this is important if you're going through a proposal process, meaning you're trying to write and respond to a bid. You can see like if questions were asked, or the government answered questions, because sometimes they write things that are unclear. They're human. They're human people putting this stuff into the system, and they might not even know how to describe the service that they need. That is typical of the government. And so it's upon the contractor to say, did you mean this? Or how did you envision this to happen? So it's kind of like there's a lot of gray areas sometimes, or things to be desired when you look at an opportunity like this. And so questions are going to be key to help you answer so that the government knows you're capable of satisfying their request. Tremaine says, are there any opportunity types that are better than others? So if it is a request for proposal, that means it's an active bid and anybody can bid on it, as long as it doesn't have any certification requirements. So, I mean, request for proposal is what you're going to bid on. Request for quote, sometimes they just want to know how much something costs. So anything that's not a request for proposal, the government's putting feelers out, trying to see if there's a contractor, maybe trying to see how much it costs so that they can put it in their budget. Pay attention to all these things, because you know what agencies buy the services that you provide and what types of services they're looking for, right? And it might be something that you don't necessarily do, but you know how to do. And so it's like, ooh, that is a potential opportunity for me, because the government doesn't seem to know anybody that does this. So pay attention to that. Who can bid? So if you look here, this is a total small business set aside. And so the set aside, that means that you have to have the classification of a total small business in order to bid on that. So make sure you pay attention to those types of things. The NAICS code, see, this is where it comes up, right? So that one, it's too small, 6117 something. So that would be, if you search that in the system, that would pop up, right? So I searched marketing as a search term, but if I search that NAICS code, this opportunity would pop up. And then the more details, okay? Read the more details. I know that it's small writing, but it will tell you many things that you need to know and that are important, okay? So it's basically a description of what this is. And I believe this RFP it's for a Army chaplain, if I'm not mistaken. So they want the person who can respond to this to have certain qualifications. I think gone to seminary school and all those things, right? But if you don't read this, you're not going to know if you meet the qualifications, okay? And the government is a stickler for making sure that you can meet it. Now, I will say there is some strategy to that too, because let's say you don't meet it right now, but maybe you can meet it by the time of award, or you can meet it within 6 months. Sometimes that works, especially if you started to build a relationship with the agency and the people who are putting out these bids. That's why relationships are important. So not that they're going to let you slide, but you might have a window or an opening there. If you say, I don't have it right now, right? I don't have my master's right now, but I'll have it in 2 months. So I'm going to submit this bid because I will have the qualifications by the time this contract is supposed to be awarded. So again, strategy around that. Again, I put read the requirements like 10 times because you got to read the requirements. The other thing is directions on how to submit for the opportunity are in the description. Okay, this is a short one. This is a short sources sought. Read the whole thing. And this is not the time to go rogue, okay? It's not the time to do your own thing. Whatever it says and whoever it says to send it to and however it says to send it, that's what you do. If it says mail it in, you mail it in. Do not say, oh, there's an email address right here. I'm just going to email it. You will be disqualified. It's that simple. Follow instructions, right? Reading is fundamental. Follow instructions. So that's something that the government does not play on. And if you have questions, you email the contracting officer's representative, or the COR, if you have specific questions regarding submission. You don't want to be delinquent on that. So This one gives you the deadline for submission. Pay attention to the time zone, right? Sometimes it's Eastern, sometimes it's Central, sometimes it's PST. I've even seen ones in Zulu time. That's military. That's like a form of military time, depending on where the opportunity is. So make sure you read it, do the conversion, and get the date right. It tells you the submission delivery destination, where it's going, and then it tells you the points of contact. The POCs, these are going to be your contracting officers, representatives, or CORs. You can ask questions to these people, and that's why their email addresses are there. I also take note of these people to see what other opportunities that they're on. So like they're contracting specialists, right? So they are writing contracts all the time, and they work for that particular, this is a DOD opportunity. They work for the DOD. So let's see what other opportunities this person is writing, right? Maybe if I build a relationship with them, I will know what opportunities are coming down the pike, right? All important. Any questions about that?
I ain't got no questions, but this is so good. This is so okay. I'm like, oh, that's good. It's like the paying attention to the contracting officer on it. Like, duh. But I wouldn't have thought of that unless you said it. This training is so fire. You getting some praise in these comments, okay? This information is great. This is such a good training. This is really good.
Thanks, guys.
We're here for it. We are here for it.
Awesome. So we only got a few more slides to go. Okay, so let's talk about positioning your business for success. Okay, this is also critical. Just like we do in the private sector, we want to do the same in GovCon, right? And I tell my clients, it is, while it may seem like it doesn't matter, you want the contracting officers, their leadership, to know your name and mention it first when you're not in the room. Okay, same thing like you do in the private industry. So elements for success in GovCon, these are my 10. Zone of genius, niche, signature services, absolutely. Marketing strategy to the government. They're people too, right? Past performance, I'll talk about that. Networking, subcontracting, delivery, continue to research and pursue opportunities. And number 10, don't quit. Okay, don't quit. This is not a get rich quick type of an industry, but it is lucrative, if that makes sense. So hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. So your zone of genius, I talked about that a little bit before. Basically, it's what you are extremely good at. You have training in, you're certified in. Also, you should be passionate about it, because nobody does business quite like the government, and you got to love what you do to deal with them. I'm just going to be honest, okay? Target market is who you can best help, and then the people that are willing to pay for it. Is it monetizable? So again, shifting this to a GovCon perspective, it's going to be the agency, right? And then the services that they're looking for. So your niche, of course, is a specialized segment of the market for your product or service. So like we were talking about, I think someone mentioned Alzheimer's and taking care of patients with Alzheimer's. My example here was if you're in health and wellness, a niche would be nutrition and gut health. Guess what, guys? They have fitness contracts too. You could teach, or they have single fitness class contracts also. A lot of opportunity out there, guys. A lot of opportunity. A signature service. So I always tell people, what's the one thing you want to be known for? Because that will spread around the government like wildfire, especially if you deliver. Okay. What's your most premium offering that could be sold to the government? What do you have experience in delivering that's transformational? You want to stand out as the expert. Why am I saying this? Because you are going to have to submit a capability statement. Capabilities meaning, what are you capable of providing to the government? How long have you done it, and how good are you at it, right? So that's why I said have a signature service, so that it's easy for you to pull this information together, okay? Again, not the time to just kind of do something random. Then a marketing strategy, right? The government places bids and seeks information on SAM.gov, just like you're looking for opportunities. Government officials are looking for you too. They use SAM.gov also. They also use Google. They also use social media, right? The CRRs that I work with, and we got inquiries all the time from other government agencies wanting the same service. They were like, hey, seeking us out. Can you do the same service that you do for the military? Where on your website does it say that you do business with the government or that you contract? Make sure that that's there. You also want to have a unique value proposition, just like you would in the private sector. Why should the government purchase from you? Why and how are you different from your competitors? Why does your brand do well, right? Why should they pick you, right? Over the next person, the next contractor that is also bidding on this opportunity. Past performance. And this is something that I'm very passionate about when I work with my clients on this. Like, you have to show the government that you have the capability and experience to execute the work, which is why you don't just do anything. And this is different from the private sector, where if you're just trying to break into an industry, you can kind of just do it. It doesn't really, not to say that it doesn't matter and, you could be mediocre at it. The government they will award you a new business, but they want to see that the key personnel, I mean, the people that are doing the work, providing the service, have the experience in delivering something similar or the appropriate skill set. So it doesn't mean you have to have experience in government contracting. You can have experience in the private sector, nonprofit, doing that same thing, but they want to see that the experience is there. They are unlikely to award to a business that is new with no experience in the industry, meaning like you were doing, I don't know, let's say you were doing finance, you were accountant, and now you're trying to do human resources. That's an unlikely award, because where is the experience that shows that you're going to be able to deliver on this contract? And also being on that side of the table as someone who has awarded contracts to other agencies, I would immediately disqualify you. I mean, maybe I'm a tough critic. You get no points from me. Past performance, 0. So just keep that in mind. And then even if it's corporate or private experience, they just want to see your capabilities. So if you have the knowledge, you ran a large operation that is doing the same thing, and you're starting your company, they will definitely consider you, right, as a contender, especially if you were like high up there in the brains of the operation. Obviously, they want you. All you have to do is just staff it down, right? Or staff it up, rather. Guys, please keep the questions coming. Also, networking, a huge part. So you want to network with the right people in GovCon, especially folks who already have contracts, right? Network with the agency purchasing your services. That's why I was naming different agencies, because get familiar with their mission, their vision, what types of programs they have, their fundraisers, charity events, their purchasing events. Agencies have purchasing events where they will literally tell you and walk you through how to do business with them. They have whole events for this. You just got to go. Especially with COVID, they have virtual and they have in person. But I always say familiarize yourself with their initiatives, join their working groups, their boards, their events, be involved so that you can be in the know. That is the best way to know what type of work is coming down. When an agency has certain initiatives that they want to fulfill, then you can kind of have an idea of what may be coming. So for example, the DoD set the policy for the services, the military services. So when the DoD would put out announcements, or we would see, or we would be in different meetings, they would talk about things that they were thinking about. I always knew it was a matter of time before another program or a test pilot, something came down, they're going to want to try. So that's just an example of how you can kind of keep your ear to the ground and kind of know what might be coming. Get to know the major players. So your competitors, get to know them. Maybe you can subcontract on a larger contract that they might be mandated to have a subcontractor, which is a thing. So they have to share the work with a small business, with a woman-owned small business, a minority-owned company. Like these are all things. So make sure that you get to know who is in the industry, and all this stuff is public. The contract that they're awarded, their mandates are public, so you can see this and kind of make the opportunity for yourself. And then build relationships with the government POCs and the contracting officers. So just basically take note of the names you see continuously and get in the room, which is all really the same as the private sector. But with GovCon, it's just, the etiquette is a little different, so to speak, right? Okay. Subcontracting, a great way to get your foot in the door. So prime contractors sometimes have mandates to subcontract a portion of the work, meaning they have to give a portion of the work to a smaller business. So you can register in the appropriate databases. Some of these databases are on SBA.gov for subcontracting opportunities. Make sure you register because they'll look for folks in there. Network at GovCon events. So any events, again, purchasing events are great ones to go to. Most of my opportunities came from networking and or speaking at events. I'll be honest. And even if the work is small, just take it. Start to build your past performance on the government side, right? So you can shift from like your civilian performance to the government performance. So they can see that you deliver. And don't take contracts you can't deliver on because you don't want to show up in the database with a cure notice, meaning cure notice means you need to fix something or you're going to lose the contract. So you don't want that to happen, which is why I say don't take work you can't deliver on. And then delivery, if you want to be a government contractor, you must deliver, make a name for yourself in a good way. Take the contracts that seem like low-hanging fruit to get started, and you'll get opportunities for larger opportunities. Deliver your work on time, follow the instructions, take time to understand what is being asked and ask the government questions. They're people too. So sometimes things are unclear. Don't let it be unclear and vague because that also will get written into the contract. You want to be very clear about what you're delivering. This is more semantics on the other side once you get the contract, but just, questions are important. Continuously pursue those opportunities. In order to win, you have to continuously search and submit bids. Once you have won a few things, you'll want to, start to make a name for your business. You can set alerts in SAM.gov and make it a habit to search. Make sure you respond to the RFPs, the RFIs, the sources sought, ask the POCs questions. And if you continue to do that, they'll put you on, sometimes they have listservs, a mailing list when new opportunities come out. Get your name on that. And that will only come from you actually communicating with that contracting officer's representative. Don't quit. Getting your foot in the door is the hardest part. It's the long game, but I'm telling you, it's lucrative. There's a lot of rules and regulations around government procurement, but just if you follow the rules and keep applying for opportunities, then you're going to succeed. But if you don't register and do nothing, then nothing will happen. Okay. So are there any questions there? I know we're up running on time, but there's only a few more slides. Anything?
No.
Okay. I see a question.
More praise. One of the questions from earlier, I think you answered it though. I think Catherine was asking, how do you position yourself if you are qualified but a new business? And I think you answered it.
Yeah. So you're key personnel if you're new. That's how we do that. Subcontracting opportunities, network. Also register on the Association of Procurement and Technical Assistant, also known as PTAC. There's a subcontracting networking database on SBA.gov. So you go to SBA.gov and click on, I think it's under contracting, and then subcontracting is the second URL. Register on that. There's the General Services Administration subcontracting directory. It's a little different ball game on the GSA schedule. I'll talk briefly about that. The Department of Defense also has a database for subcontracting opportunities. And then there's the SBA directory of federal government prime contractors with a subcontracting plan. Those are the mandates to they have to work with certain small businesses or women-owned small businesses. So all that information is actually on SBA.gov, and you can get linked directly from there. So a great resource to have. Here it is. Prime and subcontracting. That's what I was trying to think about. So go to SBA.gov, click on federal contracting, and then you'll see all the links I just mentioned for the subcontracting opportunities. And you don't have to do all this overnight. I know it's a lot of info. So, as you kind of get started, you can kind of check some of these things out. Now, certifications. We talked about that a little bit in the beginning. So you want to look at certifications because there are mandates to award money to people that have these businesses that have these certifications, millions and billions of dollars, right? So they're called the Contract Assistance Program, set-asides, designations, and certifications, all the same thing, all the same. Okay. The SBA provides a couple. So there's small disadvantaged business. That's asset and income based. Women-owned small business, also economically disadvantaged. Women-owned small business. That is asset and income based as well. And then the women-owned small businesses, it has to be 51% owned by a woman. Veteran contracting assistance, the 8A program. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of this. That process takes about 18 months, 2 years to complete, but it is mostly paperwork. There's the SBA Mentor Protege program. What that is that you can have a mentor with the SBA that will kind of help you get started in the GovCon industry. Joint Ventures is the SJ Management and Tech Assistance Program, the Hub Zone Program, and the National Resource Sales Assistance Program. I highly recommend just going to SBA.gov. They have just information on each of these, and you can see if your business qualifies. You can also contact the SBA. If you're in the DMV, you can actually go down there, which I have before, and just kind of like I didn't make an appointment. I just went in there to ask questions. So I haven't been after like COVID time, so I'm not sure if they've let you just walk in, but it's a great resource. So don't not look at the SBA. Visit certified.sba.gov to review the requirements and apply. Most of these certifications are just paperwork. And I do help my clients go through this process so they don't miss anything, but it's paperwork and online components. They're trying to move everything online. But you can't do this if you don't register in SAM.gov. So SAM.gov is the first place you got to go. After you do the registration in SAM.gov, then you can go and apply for your certifications. But again, not required to bid on things, okay? There are contracts that don't have set-asides. So don't let that deter you. Any other questions about that? All right. Okay, guys, if you do, drop them in the chat. We're almost there. So if you're ready to start doing business with the government, there is a specific format for your responses, and you need to have certain documents ready for submission and be able to meet deadlines. And to do this, it's beneficial to have a template and a process for responding, especially if you're trying to turn these out back to back. I know most of us are small business owners. We don't have a whole proposal team. The big GovCon contractors, they have whole teams, but as a small business, it can be challenging. So having a template helps you turn this out faster. And so that's where the $1 Million Government Contract Response formula comes in. We do something called Shred the RFP. And that process is just basically going through how I kind of did quickly at a high level of the opportunity that's on the SAM.gov. We go through your technical capability to make sure that you're actually able to deliver on the contract. We talk about your competitive advantage and how you can bring that out in the proposal. And then you'll have a comprehensive response you can provide and also provide competitive pricing. So all these things are important when we talk about winning a $1 million government contract. So in order to do that, I have what's called the $1 Million Government Contract Academy. It's a 2-day VIP event. You learn all 5 elements of the $1 Million Government Contract Response formula. You learn how to read and understand the government proposal request, and you learn how to create a technical response. So I have a template that I work with on my clients who sign up for the Government Contracting Academy that they can use repeatedly to respond to government proposal requests. Okay. So if you were to learn and do all this separately, right, these are just conservative numbers of what this would cost. $2,000 for somebody to shred the RFP, $2,500 to tease out your technical capability, determine the competitive advantage, probably $3,500 to give you a comprehensive response, and then $5,000 to do pricing at a minimum, depending on how large the effort is. Learning how to understand and read government proposal requests, that's a whole class. You could just spend a whole, it could be a whole class, a whole semester, learning how to do that. And then creating a technical response template, again, another lofty cost, about $5,000 to do that. So with the Government Contracting Academy, it's a 2-day event. It's $1,200. And that is what I charge to do that process. So I do have upcoming dates for that. And the next Academy dates are going to be August 11th and 12th. September 15th and 16th, and then October 13th and 14th. There are a couple of different payment options, but it is a 2-day event. We do about 4.5 hours each day to get you through the entire process. And at the end, you leave with the templates so that you can continue to respond to government proposals, which is important. Just keep your head in the game. Any questions about that? Someone says, do I help people with government getting contracts? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Absolutely. I'm your secret weapon.
Not a secret no more. Not a secret no more. That's it. I don't want to cut you off.
Go ahead. That was it. I'm done.
So look, first of all, my brain is just, this was so good. This was so good. This was so good. And I think for me, it was timely. Of course, we've had a conversation before, but like, one, the level of detail that you gave, just educating us about the process and preparing us for what we can expect moving forward was so good. So I already know this 2-day training about to be fire. If you're thinking about it, you need to do it. That's all I'm gonna say. The link to move forward is in the comments. But don't take too long, because I'm going to suggest that if you have a community and you want to get connected with Crystal, that you connect with her so she can teach more people about this, because we need to be in government contracting, right? Absolutely. So, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This was so good. This was so good. If you are not already connected, her information is shared here. You absolutely want to get connected and follow. I don't even remember how we got connected. I can't remember if I saw some of your content on LinkedIn or if I saw some of your content on Instagram, but I was just like, I slid in those DMs. I was like, look, we need to be friends, because it was just evident that you were very, very knowledgeable. So I'm excited. One, I'm excited for everybody that decides to add government contracting to one of their income streams. But two, just like how more empowered I feel after this session. Like, there's some technical pieces that are in here, but it doesn't feel scary anymore.
Yeah, that's my goal. Really
doable, right? Because you've walked us through this process, and of course, I'm about to work with you, so don't get left behind, y'all. I feel so excited now, because I'm like, oh yeah, we about to be cooking with grease. So if you're interested, please make sure that you tap the link to get started, so that you too can have a clear recipe for success, to get these contracts. Okay, like, oh my goodness, this is so good.
Yes. Everybody can have a government vertical. I just want to thank you guys so much. You've been so awesome and amazing. But everybody can have a government vertical in their business. You really can. I'm telling you, there's contracts for everything you wouldn't believe. And, don't let just what you don't know stop you. Like, the information is here. Definitely here to support. I do all parts of the process. So, the Government Contracting Academy is one facet, but I also can be, I can also be put on retainer. Like, whatever you guys need to be able to win. You want me to come and negotiate, because the big bad government is scary. I'm in there. I'm not afraid. Okay. So I'm telling you, like, when I first started, and I started, my journey started as someone working in the program part. So like, I was on the contract working in the programs part, but as I advanced in the company that I was working in, I got a chance to participate in all parts of the process, like be the government's right hand. And, and even though I was like a contractor, they looked at me as an extension, which I believe is rare. And so I've gotten a lot of insight just into how they think, and like, how the process really works. So, I implore all small businesses, don't leave money on the table. This is just federal contracting I talked about. I didn't even talk about state. Didn't even touch it tonight.
Because I was, as you were talking about some of the fitness classes, I was like, I see the ones for like the local stuff come up all the time.
Absolutely.
And I'm like,
Contract.
man, because there's literally like multiple levels to this. It's levels to this, right?
Yes.
So this was so good. I'm so excited. And I'm gonna keep saying this, right? If you are thinking about government contracting, and even if this is your first time hearing about the opportunities, do not wait. Okay, do not wait. Now is the time to do this. For many of us in this Facebook community, and if you're watching me somewhere else, it's cool to be Black in business right now. So use that to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not your competitive advantage, but it could be some bonus points as we are navigating this space. So come on, y'all. Let's get these contracts. Let's get these contracts. I'm excited. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. And I'm so excited that you're going to help me walk through this process because I can feel the organization and the structure just in the way you were walking through it. And like, that's how my brain works. It's like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. There's a repeatable process. So
Yes.
this was good to me. This was good to me.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing comments, thoughts, anything like that as we transition out for this evening?
I just want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you, Tremaine, for inviting me. And let me share one of the things that I'm really passionate about and just love helping people kind of break down that barrier to, increase their wealth and increase their income streams. I think this is one that's overlooked because, a lot of us don't know that much about it. And, I definitely want to be the bridge to help you all, kind of dip your toe in a sector that, could prove to replace or, by a lot of times, 10 times, 20 times the income that you might be earning in your business right now. And trust and believe, like the government needs some new players on the block. Okay. They need some new players. Not a lot of people look like us. And I know for a fact, especially the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, they are working closely with policymakers to increase the number of set-asides for Black-owned small business. I want to also big up the Buy Black certification created by the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce. I didn't list it because they're still working on getting that in to being recognized by the government. It's free to do that certification. The process is very similar. But they're working really, really hard because a lot of the leadership in the Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, national, they do government contracting. So that's a big initiative for them. But, even at this level, I just, implore you guys to start. To start, you never know, and start to create those relationships. All it takes is one person. Hey, I know such and such. I know Tremaine. I know she'll do a good job. I'm going to just go ahead and bring her in. Give her a piece of the contract. And next thing you know, because now you have that past performance, you can win 3, 4, 5, 6 contracts. You know what I mean? So definitely that. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram. I'm at I_simply_she, Facebook at I Simply She, and LinkedIn at Crystal Vernay. And just, if you have questions, let me know.
It's there back up on the screen for you. But again, so thank you so much for coming to chat with us today. It has been a phenomenal educational session. I hope you see all the love in the comments. Like, you did a fantastic job. You really, really crushed it. 10 out of 10 would recommend again. I would listen to this right now again. That's how good it was. So thanks guys for tuning in for another Expert Hours. Let me know how this one went. If you felt like it was fantastic, maybe we want a part 2. Crystal could come back and talk about state or local, or maybe private sector. I don't know. Y'all gotta let me know in the comments how you felt about it. So we will see you next time for our next Expert Hours. If you didn't get a chance to sign up for the $1 Million Contract Academy, the link is in the comments. You don't want to miss that, okay? Because I'm gonna come back in here and tell y'all how I got these $1 Million contracts. And I'll be like, Crystal did that. So don't be not getting contracts, because I'm about to go get these contracts, okay? So have a great night, everybody, and I will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.